Hey, Trailhawks. I'm here with Silas and Coach Darby, and welcome to Trailhawk Talk episode 3. All right. Today, we're going to talk a bit about training and how you go from just riding to getting a bit more structured. And so, maybe what I'll do is start with a couple of quick intros. And maybe, Silas, we'll go to you first. If you could do maybe a quick intro about yourself and what you like about riding with the Trailhawks.
So my name's Silas. I'm in 10th grade and I race JV1 NICA and I like to ride a lot and like to ride road, cross country mountain biking and just having fun on the bike and training.
Well, that's awesome. That's a little bit of everything. That's wonderful, Silas. And Coach Darby, similar question. Maybe just a quick intro. And what do you like about coaching the Trailhawks?
Yeah. So my name's Darby. I'm Silas's dad mostly, and probably have some responsibility for him liking bikes. I've just been biking for a really long time. Started when I was, like a kid, like most people, just on BMX, riding all over town, and then got into road biking. And then really started mountain biking some with Silas once we heard about the team and all that. Yeah, it's the saying, like, getting more kids on bikes. We definitely believe in that. We love that idea. And biking has been such a great thing for me, not even just as a kid, but as an adult, just for my head, just for my own side, like psychology and physiology, right? So biking has just been a blast for me. I really do enjoy it. And I like riding with Silas, and riding with the student athletes as well, seeing them get better and just loving the same thing that I love.
For sure. I agree with you. It's great physically and it's great mentally.
Yeah.
And similar. I love riding with my kid too. And especially something hopefully we can do until we're,
Exactly.
deep in our 70s and maybe beyond and have to turn to e-bikes or something.
That's right.
And I agree, it's great coaching the Trailhawks and watching everyone grow and get from slower than me to faster than me, where I can't even keep up anymore. All right, I'm going to jump in. So, Silas, let me ask you this, because you train a bit more formally. Let's start with this. If I want to get faster on a bike and stronger, shouldn't I just go out and ride every trail as hard as I can every time?
Sure, you should not
Tell me more.
because
Tell me why.
so when you do that, you're not able to like recover if you ride hard every day. That's one of the things that I feel. Like when I do a hard ride, normally it's on Tuesday. Like Wednesday, I can't go out and do another hard ride and put in a good effort. And so they talk about 80% zone two. And it builds your base better because you need a strong base to build like your high intensity and stuff. So it's just not good to do that because it'll get you fast quick, but it won't get you like really fast and you'll just burn up and won't have anything left in you.
Yeah. I mean that yeah, that's the base of it. That's the heart of it, is really, building your base, which is your you think like a building. You're building your your bottom part first, your foundation, right? And then the bigger the building, the bigger the foundation you need. So as you train, on zone 2, you're building a foundation. And then if you want to get fast, you make sure you have a really big foundation, and then you can put a lot of weight on that. But yeah, it really does take a good bit of, like Silas said, zone 2. And part of it is, it's really interesting. We call it, it's called adaptation, but the idea is, like, you want to incrementally make it harder on your body, because your body is going to adjust to more and more stress, but you have to give it time to rest. So it's not just riding as hard as you can, it's incrementally. And there's a big difference between, riding hard and then following a training plan. Those two things are different, right? And sometimes we can start off riding hard, and that's fine. Like we have fun, we ride hard, and we will get faster. But that will only take you so far. So it depends on how far the student athlete wants to go. At some point, you do have to really, follow some kind of training plan. But the training plan will incorporate the zone 2, and then will also incorporate, like Silas said, your thresholds, your VO2 maxes, and all those things. But they're in a way smaller quantity than you might think.
Let's start with zone two then. I think that's a good place for our Trailhawk student athletes to hear about. I think as you start getting into training, that's one of the things that's out there as, a big thing to pay attention to. Silas, what can you tell us about zone two, especially for folks who've maybe never even heard of it before?
Yeah, so the way I look at zone two is like easy riding. You can do it for hours and hours and just still feel pretty good and still be able to like do an effort. But it's kind of like you should be able to breathe through your nose, like talking easy, and it shouldn't just feel too hard. And I have like a heart rate monitor, and so I know what my zone two is. So for me, it's like 129 to 49 beats per minute. So I know when I'm training, I look at my heart rate and I try to keep it in that. And like most of my training is in zone two. So I just find it super easy. You shouldn't feel like sore a whole lot after, and you should be able to do it on days upon each other.
And you said 80%, right? In zone
Yes,
two?
sir.
What's the
Yes, sir.
benefit of riding easy 80% of the time?
Well, like we talked about earlier, it just builds your base, it builds your endurance, and you need that firm foundation to build upon your high intensity.
Yeah, I got you. So zone two is kind of on that lower base end, just kind of building that foundation, as you said, and really building a good engine.
Yeah, that's
One of the things we like about mountain biking is, being in the woods and some roots and some, you know, twists and some turns and some climbs and everything else. Zone two is easy. Does that ever get boring for you?
Yes, it gets very boring. I definitely don't love zone two. My favorite type of riding is like tempo, just like it makes you feel like you're going faster. Like it's still not super hard, but yeah, zone two is definitely boring, but you just have to trust the process. And especially in the woods, like when you're climbing and stuff, it's really hard to keep it in zone two. So sometimes you just gotta realize that it'll be okay, that your heart rate's higher than it should be, and just you kind of just have to forget about it.
yeah. I mean, he mentioned threshold, threshold and all that being a little bit above your zone two, and that's not terrible if you get into that as well. That's not, it's not like messed up necessarily, but the idea is just keeping it at that lower heart rate. But he's exactly right. There are a lot of times, where it is hard. You to keep it in zone two, it can be hard because you're going up a hill and you feel like you're going so slow. So you stand up on the pedals, and go up the hill. And if you have a heart rate monitor or power thing, you would see that you actually jumped out of zone two by just standing up on the pedals. But that's why I personally, and me and Silas have actually talked about this. He said, "Dad, you like the trainer a lot," and I do like the trainer because the trainer helps me stay in those zones. Like I'm in that zone. I'm hitting the numbers I'm supposed to hit for an hour or whatever I'm supposed to do. It keeps me in the zone. It is easier to stay within the parameters I find on a trainer as opposed to riding outside. But just like Sada said, a trainer can be boring, and sometimes it's boring enough staying in zone two outside, inside could be really boring.
So if you start doing more zone two and kind of try to get to that 80%, what kinds of things are you going to notice about yourself and your riding that zone two is going to do for you? And how long does it usually take to start noticing those things?
Yeah, I think it probably does take a good while. Like I've really started trying to train zone two probably since the summer. And like an example I have is like this one hill we ride at. Like I remember before I started training and all that, towards like probably the beginning of NICA, when I would go up that hill, I'd be like huffing and puffing, and I couldn't go up it without like probably doing 200 heart rate. But now I can go up in like the 150s, and you realize just your base is a lot better. Or on like group rides, like when I first started doing road group rides, I'd be in threshold like the whole time, and now I can ride in more like tempo and zone two. So it's just like you gotta figure out if you ride in the same place a lot, you can realize you might be going faster with a lower intensity.
Yes, you said something really important that I want to make sure we emphasize. As you build that base of an engine, you get a bigger and better engine, you can get higher power with a lower heart rate. And that's going to
Yeah,
save your energy and that's going to enable you to go a lot longer without getting tired.
I could see Silas getting a lot better, especially after, he was training, but we started doing some road rides and stuff together. And then also we jumped into some cyclocross. So he was riding more at different intervals and it really helped him. I'll tell you this is for the old guys. but this will help young people too. I talked to some guys who are really fast, and they were in their 60s, and I was like, what's the deal? Like, how did these people get so fast? Because I felt like they were older, and they said what happens is when you're younger, you train and then you take off for a long period of time, and you lose a lot of fitness. So, you know, you lose fitness, and it takes you 3 to 4, 5, 6 months even to regain where you were before. So if you want to be fast in NICA, if you really want to be fast, you can't like take off 6 months. You have to take off for less than that because you lose so much of what you work for. You lose it way faster than you gain it. So, the idea is to train to some capacity most of the year. Maybe you take it easier in the winter some. That's where most people will. But just like Silas said, it's like, we did NICA. From there, I got him a road bike and he started riding with me and the guys. And that's the hills he's talking about. So he rode all summer. And then from there, I drug him into riding cyclocross with me. So we raced cyclocross in the fall all the way through the winter. And then we stayed on the trainer for those 2 more months leading into NICA. And I think that really helped him, like he didn't lose fitness. He wasn't trying to rebuild when NICA started. It was already there. And I feel like with students, if they really want to get fast, don't take off for 6 months. Keep in it. You can have some kind of lull, but keep in it. And that way you're not trying to play catch up. You worked a year to build fitness and you lost it in 2 months. Like it's a bad trade and it stinks. It's just life. Like that's just the way our bodies are, So I would say don't take off forever. Keep riding, some capacity. Have fun, but also that I think that takes you to the next level.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Silas, I'm building off of what your dad said. How many days do you ride? And if you're doing zone two, how long are you riding in zone two for?
So I did a AI training plan called Trainer Road, and so I told it like what I wanted to be. So yeah, 80% of those rides were zone two, and my weeks were only like 6 hours, so it wasn't a whole lot. I feel like I could have done a lot more, but so it got me to where I wanted to be, which is like do really good in JV2. So I won JV2, which is good, but then I had to move up to JV1. So now I'm starting to like ramp it up, try to ride a lot more than 6 hours. But this winter I was doing just a lot of trainer, and it was only about hour and a half rides. I was riding 5 or 6 days a week, and so all those were just easy, consistent power, zone two, and it built my base really well. And then also on Tuesdays, I'd have those high intensity, and that just got me a long way from where I was earlier this year.
That's great. So, about 6 hours a week, hour and a half at a time.
Yeah,
And yeah, you said about 4 or 5 days a week. That's great.
yeah, but now, like this summer, I'll do a lot more. So I'm really trying to build my base really well. So most of my rides will be like my lowest ride will be an hour and a half, which is a recovery ride. So like Saturday, 4 hours, Sunday, 3 hours. So just stuff like that, building that long endurance and not a whole lot of intensity to build that base, like we were talking about earlier.
Got it. Well, that's great. Coach Darby, what would you recommend to one of our student athletes who says, "Hey, I'm pretty decent at mountain biking, but now I want to take it to the next level"? What's something they can start doing tomorrow potentially?
Yeah. Don't be intimidated by some of those numbers that Silas just said about, he's riding a good bit, and not everyone has to start there by any means. You might not have the time flexibility to do that. But again, just like what we started out with is like, hey, how do we get faster? I think it's training, really. So sure, they need to, ride your bike more, right? That's the easiest answer, is to ride your bike more. So riding your bike more on the trails will help you get better on the technical stuff. You actually get faster by, riding the trails, getting more used to the trails, responding quicker to different obstacles, learning how to corner. Silas has probably, I would say, watched too many YouTube videos, but there are quite a bit of YouTube things that, he's watching things a lot on YouTube. So he's always learning. And I think that's great, right? To some capacity, learning, seeing what these other guys are doing. And then the other thing would just be, what can they do? I don't see how. I mean, if you get kind of serious about it, you have to get a heart monitor. You have to have some way to find out where you are, as far as like we talk about zone two, but that's, and you can do zone two by, understanding your breathing, but really once you get into the higher levels, it's hard to know where zone 3 is and zone 4 and zone 5. And the easiest way is to do it off of a heart rate monitor. And I think those are, fairly inexpensive. So ride your bike more, have fun, all that. But also, there's this other level of building the motor. And if you want to build the motor, I really think a heart rate monitor would be a great asset. And then you can just YouTube, like, zone 2 or simple training plan, and stuff will come up. And then, with your heart rate monitor, you can know where you are and what zone you want to be in, and you just go from there. I think that's a great start.
Yeah, like don't go too hard at first. If you're not really training, you gotta build base and just work your way up. And yeah, you just gotta start off small and be consistent. Like that's what I think helped me a lot over the winter. I just stayed consistent, followed my training plan, did the like same thing every week. Eat well, like get enough sleep, hydrate. I think that'll all just help you get better and improve faster than if you're just riding on a Monday and Friday. But if you ride easy Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and take like 2 rest days, 3 rest days, like you will get a lot faster and you'll notice a difference pretty quick.
That is fantastic. I'm going to try to wrap this up and summarize what I think you guys are saying, which makes a lot of sense. So, to get faster, you don't need to go out there and ride as hard as you can every time. But to start some of that structure, one, consistency is going to be one of the big important things. Build it slow. Don't go from here to here in a day. Make sure you're having fun. If it's not fun, you're not going to do it. Zone 2, some of the big things to look at is watch your breathing. Can you breathe through your mouth? And 2, can you talk and have a conversation? And if you do those 2 things, you're probably in zone 2. If you can't do those things, that's when you may be higher. I heard you talk about the metrics, watching the heart rate, a little bit about power and watts, but it sounds like watching your heart rate and figuring out your zone 2 heart rate, that's a great place to start. I heard you say about 80% of your riding should be in zone 2, building the base of that engine, and then your hard rides are building the top of that engine and kind of really getting you more power. Recovery, I heard you say, is really important, and I think those are the notes I took on some of the most important things for some of the new riders to start thinking about. Any last recommendations or any last tips for the new riders? Give you each a chance.
What you got,
After a ride, you just part of recovery is like having a protein shake or a meal after a ride. And also, you need to consume a good amount of carbs if you're riding a lot, which just helps you fuel, especially like the day before a race. You need to try to eat a lot of carbs because that's what you're burning like while you're riding.
You touched on it, Neil. Is part of it is, the student athletes have to enjoy it. They have to enjoy riding the bike. That's the start. And then at some point, for Silas, he almost is at the point now where he really kind of likes training. That sounds like a crazy thing, but there is this sense in which you have to see the big picture. The big picture is, what do you want? Like, what are your goals? So you heard Silas talk about a couple goals. He wanted to be on the podium for JV2. That was a goal. So he knew kind of what he needed to do. He knew he had to train. You can't get by on just riding fast anymore. You have to train. And then another thing that he did, and we talked about this a little bit, is like Silas found riders that were faster than him. And then he learned from them. So everyone is ahead of someone. And so you can always look back and help somebody, and you can always look forward and someone can help you. So I think that's super important. So Silas loves that. I don't have to motivate him. It's on him, and then he likes to train. And then he's found some friends that are faster than him, and we're not intimidated by that. We want to learn questions. And I asked the dads questions about some of their student athletes, like what are they doing, or who's, at some point it's like who is their coach, or what, it's on that level. And just so the student athletes know, there are student athletes that race in NICA that are like statewide ranked, and some of them nationally ranked. So they're racing against some super fast kids. A lot of talent in North Carolina, NICA. A lot of talent, like that is competing, nationwide. It's incredible. Anyway, the idea of training, finding someone better, learning, growing, having fun, it's all a process.
Yeah, those are such great tips, Coach Darby. Having a goal, learning from others, asking the questions of those who who've been there and done it. So important.
Yeah,
You guys talked about sometimes in zone two, you got to sit there for a while and it gets a little boring. And sometimes you just got to sit in it because you got to see the bigger picture of where it's going to get you.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
then, asking questions. I think Silas and Coach Darby, you guys probably know more than most. Is it okay if the student athletes ask you guys questions?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we're not the experts by any means, but we would love to help any way we can. And I was going to mention that, like, for any student athlete that watches this, they're welcome to, ask questions or whatever, and we can talk offline, if they wanted to visit at a later time, or, we'd be glad to do that.
Well, that's awesome. We're gonna wrap this one up, I think. Silas, you gave me an awesome idea for next episode, potentially starting to talk about nutrition. That's such a great topic. But in the meantime, we'll say thank you to both of you, Silas and Coach Darby. These are some great tips to get any student athlete on our team who wants to start taking it to the next level. I appreciate you guys, and that's going to be a wrap for Trailhawk Talk, episode 3. Thanks, y'all.